My name is Jennifer Catoni, and I'll be presenting the first half of this presentation, and then my colleague Jen Semilevich will join us to present the second half. We are both senior retirement analysts here at the MTRS. And just to give you an idea of what we're going to cover today, part one will be an introduction to the MTRS, who we are and what we do. Part two will go over your membership and your annuity savings account. Part three will review membership eligibility, creditable service, and your benefits. Part four will go over how we calculate benefits, including formulas we use, the benefit options, and some sample calculations. And part five will review some retirement issues that you should be aware of both before and after you retire. And again, we do have the questions going on live chat while we're doing this, and we will have a couple of short breaks where we do take a couple of questions that might be pertinent to everybody here. So first thing that we want to go over, if you've created an online account and you log in once in a while to check your creditable service, we just want to let you know that there is missing information in these. We are waiting for some districts to send everything over. We do audit everything and have things validated before they get posted. So if you're looking at your account and it looks like there's some service missing or things are behind, don't worry about it. We don't use these numbers for calculations at retirement. These are just to give you an idea of where you might stand. So we're waiting for this information to get validated. We don't use it. It's just to give you an idea. This should update eventually. We should be getting more and more information in. So this will not affect your retirement if those numbers don't look right. So please don't worry about that. We are working on it and we are getting caught up. So if you do need a creditable service estimate or something like that, perhaps you're going through a divorce, we can put that through and have everything updated, but please let us know. We can go in and update things manually, so we do apologize for that, and we do appreciate your patience as we get this stuff validated and put through. So membership tiers, Pension Reform 2, as of April 2nd, 2012, created a different benefit structure for new members of Massachusetts public retirement systems. This means that members who joined on or after that date have their benefit determined by slightly different factors. Because of this, we have two membership tiers, where Tier 1 members are those who joined any Massachusetts public contributory retirement system before April 2nd, 2012, and Tier 2 members are those who joined on or after that date. This presentation is geared towards those who joined before that date, but it will definitely be helpful for Tier 2 members who joined after that date. The examples that we do show will also be for Tier 1 members. If you are in Tier 1, please note that your benefit has not changed. This only affects Tier 2 members. But if you ever refunded your account from a Massachusetts retirement system and then later rejoined after April 2nd, 2012, you are now considered a Tier 2 member. Tier 2 members do have different age factors that we use, and we use a 5-year salary average instead of a 3-year salary average as we do for Tier 1 members. So the MTRS is a defined benefit plan under Section 401A of the Internal Revenue Code. This means that your benefit is determined by a set formula and it's paid monthly for life. The formula is determined by your age, your years of service at retirement, and your salary. Fluctuations in the financial markets do not affect your benefit, and our pension fund is invested in a well-diversified portfolio with a focus on long-term returns. We are governed by a 7-member board that is unpaid and meets monthly. We have 2 offices, one in Charlestown where we are today, and then out in Springfield as well, which covers our western cities. Between the 2 offices, we have over 100 staff members. Members of the MTRS are Massachusetts public elementary, secondary, charter, and collaborative school teachers and administrators. All eligible employees are required to enroll and to make mandatory contributions. We will talk about contribution rates and how what you pay is determined a little bit later on. We are also the largest of 104 Massachusetts contributory retirement systems. So what do we do for you? We establish your annuity savings account when you join, and we maintain it throughout your career. We process any service purchases that you might want to make. We will go over those later on as well. And we keep you informed about any retirement issues via seminars and broadcast emails, just things that you should keep aware of. We will also refund your account upon request if you leave active service before you retire. We'll discuss refunding later on as well. We will process a benefit to your survivor if you die while you're still in active service. And during your retirement, we will pay you your monthly benefit allowance. We will also pay a benefit to your survivor if it's applicable. So our website, mass.gov/MTRS, is your best resource for anything related to being an active member or a retiree. Here you can find any form, including our service purchase applications, the retirement application, beneficiary designation forms, refund applications, the W-4P, and there's also a retirement benefit estimator. You can also find information on pending legislation as well, and you can join our email list to receive important updates. In your PDF, there is a general email address. You can just email that address and ask to be put on our mailing list. So all members contribute a percentage of their earnings. Your contribution rate is based on when you join the MTRS. You can see the dates and the rates in this chart. One of the big dates is July 1st, 2001, when members who joined on this date or afterwards were mandated into Retirement Plus, and those members contribute a flat 11% on all of their earnings. So there are two ways to be an R+. You either were mandated by joining after that date, or you were a member before July 1st, 2001, and you elected into it. Also, if you were a member before July 1st, 2001, and you refunded, but then reestablished membership after July 1st, 2001, you are now mandatory in Retirement Plus. So for rates that aren't Retirement Plus, most members will have either 7, 8, or 9% taken plus 2%. That 7, 8, or 9% is taken on your entire earnings. The 2% is an additional 2% that is only taken on your earnings over $30,000. So for example, if you earn $70,000 a year, you'll pay 7, 8, or 9% on the entire $70,000. And then you'll pay 2% only on the additional $40,000 that comes after that first $30,000. So members in Retirement Plus pay 11% on their entire earnings. So in the previous example, if you're earning $70,000, a Retirement Plus member will have 11% taken on the entire $70,000. An important thing to remember is that if you are a 9% plus 2% member, this does not mean that you are in Retirement Plus. This is one case where 9 plus 2 does not equal 11. If you think that there's a problem with your rate, if you think maybe that you're contributing at the wrong rate, maybe you're taking too much or too little, please talk to your district's payroll officer or get in touch with us and we can figure out what's going on. So you do contribute on your regular compensation. Now, what is considered regular compensation? So for things that are included in regular compensation, this will always be your annual base salary per your collective bargaining agreement with your district, or if you're an administrator and on an individual contract, this will be the number that's listed in your individual contract. Regular longevity is also considered eligible. This could be something where in your contract it says that if you've been working in the district for, say, 10 years, you're able to receive an additional $1,000. That is what regular longevity is considered. Elbow or enhanced longevity is something that some districts offer. It has a few names: alternative longevity, enhanced. It's something where you have to opt into it. You might get a special payment for maybe 3 years, but then once that payment is over, you're not receiving that anymore. This is not considered eligible. What you can do is have the regular longevity that you would have received if you hadn't opted into the alternative longevity. You can have that, the deductions taken for that invoice to pay for that. And then we can use the regular longevity that you would have received in your salary average when you go to retire. Athletic coaching and instruction is always eligible. This does not have to be in the CBA, but it does have to be the instruction of athletics. So it can't be something such as timekeeping or taking tickets at a game. And it can be an intramural payment as well for an intramural sport. Annual payments for additional services pursuant to the CBA could be something like mentoring, or maybe being in charge of the book club or the art club, things like that. These do have to be listed in the CBA. The name of the payment has to be listed and the amount of the payment has to be listed. If you look on the other side of this list for excluded, it does say hourly payments. However, there are two types of hourly payments which are eligible, and these are the only two hourly payments. This is breakfast or lunch duty. For these to be considered eligible, you have to be in the space with the kids, so in the cafeteria, in order for this to be counted. And this can be an hourly payment. So on the right side of this list, you'll see things that are eligible, that are excluded and ineligible. This would be something such as an amount paid due to your employer's knowledge of your retirement or a retirement incentive. If you're able to get payments back for sick leave or any unused vacation, this is not eligible as well. And hourly payments are not eligible with the exceptions of the breakfast and lunch duty. Temporary salary augmentations or one-time payments or bonus payments are not eligible. This would be something like a one-time for 1 year, you receive an additional 1% on your base pay. This is not eligible. And then anything that's an annuity or fringe benefit, this could be something like a travel allowance or a cell phone reimbursement or something like that. So now I think we might be taking a question.
Looks like we've got questions coming in, but the chat team is taking care of it. Please,
Okay, great. So we're just going to move on then. Okay, so your MTRS benefits. So when I said earlier, when you do start with the MTRS and join, we create an annuity savings account for you. This account is created when you establish membership, and it contains all of the contributions that you make and the accumulated interest along with anything that's paid for any service purchases. This is an account that has all of your funds in it. If you leave service before retiring, you may take a refund on your annuity savings account. And you can also leave your funds on account if you leave service. You might return to teaching later on and you want to leave those funds in there. Your retirement benefits include your regular retirement. This could be a disability retirement, both ordinary and accidental, a termination retirement, and there's also an in-service death benefit. If you die before you've retired, your beneficiary will receive a benefit. So please make sure that you do keep your beneficiary information up to date. So if you take a refund, this is what will happen. You can take a refund voluntarily of your annuity account. If you resign voluntarily and you have less than 10 years of service, then you'll receive all of your contributions plus the annually compounded interest at a rate of 3%. If you have 10 or more years, you'll receive all of your contributions plus interest at the regular rate. If you leave involuntarily or have an involuntary termination, you'll receive all of your contributions plus interest at the regular rate, no matter how many years of service you have. And in all cases, you will only receive interest if you refund within 2 years of your separation from service. So you do need to be aware of a few things. If you take a refund from the MTRS, this means that you forfeit all of the things associated with your membership. This means if you later return to service and rejoin, you will be considered a new member and you will be a tier 2 member. And this means that you will have a different salary average formulated at retirement, where we use 5 years instead of 3 years. You'll have to work longer to receive a similar benefit than you would have if you'd remained a member. The minimum age of retirement for Tier 2 members is also increased from 55 years to 60 years old. And even if you repurchase that time that you're refunded, it does not give you back your old status. So eligibility for Tier 1 members, there are 2 superannuation plans with different eligibility criteria. The first is regular, where you can be any age with at least 20 years of creditable service, or be at least 55 with at least 10 years of creditable service. And then there's Retirement Plus if you're a participating member. With Retirement Plus, you can be any age with at least 30 years of service, and at least 20 of those years must be membership service. Membership service is considered service with the MTRS or the Boston Retirement System as a teacher. You will get an enhanced benefit with an additional 12% added to your base benefit percentage when you reach 30 years, and an additional 2% for each full year after that. So 30 years, you get 12%, 31 years, you get 14%, 32 years, you get 16%, and on and on. So with disability retirement, there are two types. There's ordinary and there's accidental. For ordinary, you may qualify for this if you have a pre-existing condition or if something happens to you that prevents you from doing your job. To qualify for this, you must have at least 10 years of service. And there are two ways of calculating this depending on whether you are a veteran. For non-veterans, it's the regular retirement formula with the age factor increased to 55. And for veterans, it's 50% of your last annual salary plus your annuity. For this, your annuity is your account balance times the actuarial factor. This only really benefits you if you aren't yet 55 or not yet 60 if you're tier 2. The second type is accidental disability. You may qualify for this. If you are injured on the job, there is no service or age requirement for this, and your disability must have been due to injury or accident while performing your job duties. The formula for this benefit is 72% of your last annual salary plus annuity. Both types of disability retirement, both ordinary and accidental, go through a thorough legal review and must be approved. This usually takes a long time to process. So we do recommend that you go through with a regular retirement process first while your disability retirement is under review. This way you'll still receive a benefit while your disability is under review, and then afterwards you can have the disability retirement take effect. Next is termination retirement. Termination retirements are only available for Tier 1 members. The requirement for this is at least 20 years of service, and your termination must have been completely involuntary. For example, your position was eliminated or you weren't reappointed. You cannot have been fired for cause. The benefit formula for a termination retirement is your 3-year salary average times 1/3 plus your annuity. Your annuity in this case is your account balance times an actuarial factor, and this will equal your option A benefit. Termination retirements usually end up being around 45%. And in order to be eligible for this, you do need to complete a termination statement and release. Now we're going to go over creditable service. Creditable service for regular service for a full-time teacher is usually 10 months for 1 year. If you're on a 12-month contract, 1 year will be 12 months. Leaves of absence, both paid and unpaid, are considered regular service, and you can get up to a month of service credit for a documented approved leave of absence. We do count full years of full months when it does come to retirement. Now, this next section is about part-time membership service. Please remember that this is only regarding membership service. So this is service where you're a member, where you're at least 50% or half-time, you're licensed, you're in a position that requires licensure, and you're paid according to a contract. These part-time rules do not apply to service that is less than 50%, or if it's something like substituting or non-membership position, such as being a tutor or an aide. So if your part-time service was rendered on or before November 9th, 1990, you will receive full-time credit equivalency. This means, for example, that if you were 60% for the 1987 to 1988 school year and you worked that full year, you will receive a full year of service credit for that year. The period between November 9th, 1990 and July 9th, 2010 is a little bit different. If you were never part-time during this period, if you were part-time during this period, but you never went to full-time, even just for a day or a week, then you will receive full-time credit during this period. And then for service rendered on or after July 9th, 2010, it's always prorated. If you look at page 34, I believe it is in your PDF, there is a really thorough breakdown of this and some examples. Another issue that's affected by prorated credit is kindergarten or pre-kindergarten teaching. For service before that second date of July 9th, 2010, all kindergarten and pre-kindergarten service is full credit. You had to have been in an actual teaching position in charge of the classroom and not something, for example, where you were a speech pathologist who was in a kindergarten classroom. If you are part-time when you retire, or you were part-time during one of your last 3 years, you will not be double penalized for this. When we calculate your salary average, we will use the full 100% salary rate that you would have been paid when we calculate your salary average. And now I think we're moving right on to Jen at this point. We're hitting the next part of our presentation, but do we have any questions?
Yes, thank you. I do have a couple of questions from the chat. First one is, if I purchase half a year of creditable service and work half a year, does that count as a full year of service towards the percentage of salary average?
So I'm thinking, I'm not sure if you're asking whether, if you have substitute service for that first portion of the year or for that half the year or some other type of eligible service, you can't just purchase the year, first of all, without having worked it. You do actually have to have had some service. So can you just repeat the rest of the question again?
Sorry.
Can you just repeat the question again?
Sure.
Just wanted to clarify that part of it.
If I purchase half a year of creditable service and work half a year, does that count as a full year of service towards the percentage of salary?
So I think we're talking about a couple of different things. So if you do have eligible service to purchase for the first half of the year, and then you do work the second half of the year, depending on the amount of service that you're able to purchase, if it does come to a full year, that will be considered one full year of service credit. Now, if you're talking about the salary average, we would, depending on when your highest years were, it's a little bit tricky. If that service that you purchased is not considered membership service, then that time will not count towards your salary average. And if the other half of the year is part of your highest salary, it has to be consecutive years. So if you do have consecutive time around that, then that would be considered used in your salary average. But if it's just floating out there, then it won't be used for your salary average. I'm sure that sounds a little bit confusing, but I think one of the big takeaways that you need for that is that your 3 years of salary average have to be consecutive membership service salary years. So you can't just jump around and pick and choose. If there is a portion of time that's substitute time that does break up in the middle of that highest portion of time, then we won't use that time period, but that's only because it's not membership service. So that does have to have membership service on either side of it that we do use. I'm not sure if that's clear. If you do have if you want to email us or ask us, we can go over your situation more in depth with your personal situation if that's the case. So I would say get in contact with us. But just generally, that's the idea. Anything else?
Yes, regarding regular compensation, there were a couple of comments in the chat asking about summer school and substitute teaching and where those fall in.
Okay, summer school is a special case where if you're a member and you're working full time and you're getting a full year of service and you work summer school, then you can't purchase that service because you're already getting a full year of credit. There's no space left, if you will, in order to purchase that service. If you're part-time and you're getting, say, 0.6 for the year, then that summer service may be eligible for purchase. And if you're not, if this is also service that's from before you were a member, then depending again on how much service you might have already bought, that summer service can be eligible. If you're purchasing service and you're able to purchase a full year of service, then again, we're running up to where you've already gotten a full year and you can't purchase that. But if you're just purchasing some day-to-day substitute service, and you have space for that summertime from before you became a member, that could probably be eligible too. Okay, great. And then we will now move on to Jen.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being with us on your April vacation. It's a gloomy day, but you're here, so hopefully it's a little bit brighter. Moving on, we are going to talk about purchasing creditable service. And some of you might not be very aware of what purchasing service means. So we are here to educate you to hopefully get some good questions generated for you. To buy back your creditable service means that you're buying back years of service that you rendered under a different employer that wouldn't necessarily always pay into Mass Teachers Retirement System to help enhance your years of service and therefore enhance your overall benefit calculation when you go to retire. So that's a purpose of purchasing service. On the screen here, you'll see that there's two different groups of creditable service listed. First one being billed at the actuarial interest rate, which is currently 7%, and the second one being billed at the buyback interest rate, which is currently 3.5%. Now, these different groups are set within the law, and if any of these different buybacks sound like something that you might have rendered this type of service, then you can go on our website and download the form and take a closer look regarding the eligibility criteria for these different buybacks. And again, to apply to buy back these years of service to help enhance your overall MTRS benefit payout. The process of purchasing service is that you first download the application, go to our website, mass.gov/MTRS, and if you go to forms for active and inactive members, you'll see a list very similar to the one that was just on the screen prior. Once you find the service purchase application that fits your type of service, then you would click on that application, download it. It's an interactive PDF that you can work through. There might be some, depending on the buyback, different parts of the application that you would need to send to your prior employer. Send that to them. Once you get the completed application, you send everything over to the MTRS for review. If after review, we determine that the service is eligible, we would send you an invoice for the amount of years of service, along with a cost to buy back those years of service. Typically, the cost is going to include a principal amount, which is we look at your earnings at the time that you rendered the service, and then it's what you would have paid into the MTRS had you had been a member with the MTRS for that service. And then it has that compounding interest at either the 7 or the 3.5% until it's paid in full. There are a couple of different special formulas for various types of buybacks, but in general, that's how these costs are calculated. Now, once you get the invoice, if you'll be given two different options, either to pay the lump sum option or to opt onto the installment plan. So if you want to do either of those, you can do that with a rollover or a transfer of funds or by a personal check. And when you get the invoice, lastly, you do not need to pay it. You have the option to pay it. It's not mandated that you buy this back if it's not something that you think would benefit you. Some important reminders for buying back your service purchases. Again, buying back non-membership service to go increase your overall years of service at the time of retirement. You do have to complete the application at the time that you are an active member. The only two exceptions to this are Peace Corps service or refund buyback service. And all service purchases must be made in full prior to your date of retirement. Any late payments or late applications may postpone the benefit payouts that you would receive if you're doing it near retirement. All right, switching gears now a little bit, and we're moving into some retirement facts here for you. Part of the retirement process is that you will choose your benefit selection option, either retiring under benefit A, B, or C. Now, what this means is that you are choosing how you as a retiree will receive your benefit, and also how, if any, survivor benefit will be left to a beneficiary. Starting with option A is your maximum benefit that you will receive as a retiree. Now, upon your passing, there would be no survivor benefit left to any beneficiary under option A, but you as a retiree would receive the maximum amount. This is our most popular option that we have members selecting. Option B works very similarly to a short-term life insurance policy. As a retiree, you're going to receive approximately 1 to 3% less than the maximum benefit of option A. And then upon your passing, your beneficiary will receive a lump sum payout of whatever is left in your annuity savings account. Now, I say whatever is left because the way that the option B works is that during retirement, funds are drawn from your annuity savings account to pay for a portion of your benefit. This account generally lasts 9 to 11 years into retirement. Once that account is depleted, please know that your benefit will not decrease in any way. The state will kick in 100% to fund your retirement benefit for the remainder of your life. However, if you pass away after that annuity savings account is depleted, there's not going to be a payout for your beneficiaries once this account is depleted. And our last option is option C. Option C is our second most popular option, and you as a retiree will receive approximately 9 to 11% less than the maximum benefit of option A. And then upon your passing as a retiree, your survivor that you choose, and it is one survivor that you can select, either a parent, child, sibling, spouse, or a former spouse not yet remarried. One survivor, one beneficiary will receive a lifetime benefit for the remainder of their life, which is equal to 2/3 of what you were receiving under option C as a retiree. If your option C beneficiary was to predecease you, your benefit was not able to be recalculated under option C by selecting a new option C beneficiary. What will happen in that case is that you will pop back up and you will continue to receive your lifetime benefit under option A. Please note that for the option C reductions, these option C reductions vary based on the age difference between you and your beneficiary. So if you select somebody who is much younger than you, the beneficiary is a much younger beneficiary than you. This results in a much greater deduction that you would be seeing because we would have to take into consideration that there will be a longer expected payout period for that survivor benefit payment. On the screen here, you'll see the bones of our retirement formula. The retirement formula is based off of your age factor, your age at the time of retirement, and we multiply that age factor by your years of creditable service to get us a base percentage salary average. If you are participating in Retirement Plus and meet the eligibility criteria, we would add on that enhanced percentage amount based off of your years of service. So if you're eligible and you have 30 years of service, we add on the additional 12%, 31 years, an additional 14%, and so on. Please note that even with the Retirement Plus enhancement, your benefit is still going to be maxed out at that maximum benefit of 80%. Now we're going to take your salary average percentage and multiply it, or we're going to take your percentage and multiply it by your salary average. This is going to be, as Jen stated, your 3 highest consecutive salaries. Generally, it's your last 3 years, but there are maybe different scenarios that it might not be. So your 3 highest consecutive salaries in the calculation. This will leave us with your option A annual benefit amount. If you are a veteran and it's applicable, we would add on the enhanced veterans benefit of up to $300, leaving you with your total option A allowance amount. Our first example, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that retirement calculation that we just went over. We have on the screen here Mary Educator. She's retiring under the regular retirement formula with a retirement date of June 30th, 2026. She is not participating in Retirement Plus. She is retiring at age 61, so her age factor is going to be 0.021. Her creditable service consists of regular service with Pittsfield for 28 years, and she also bought back some additional service from out of state, substitute service, and other Massachusetts public service for a total of 32 years of service. Mary's salary average in this situation is her last 3 years, and it works out to $75,000 for her salary average. And Mary is a veteran. Plugging those factors into the formula that we went over, you'll see Mary's age factor of 0.021. We're going to multiply that by her years of creditable service, 32 years. We do use full years and full months in the calculation of your benefit. So 32 full years will be used in the calculation for Mary. And this leaves us with her base percentage salary average of 67.2%. Now, since Mary is not in Retirement Plus, there's nothing additional to add on to this percentage amount. It is strictly going to be that 67.2%. We're going to take that percentage and multiply it by her salary average, which is $75,000. This will leave Mary with an annual benefit of $50,400. However, since she is a veteran, we would then add on that additional $300 veterans benefit to her amount, leaving Mary with her total option A allowance of $50,700 a year, which for her will break out to $4,225 per month that she will be getting paid. As a retiree, you will get paid at the end of each month for that month that you have been retired. Now, if Mary was to retire under option B, she would receive $49,720 per year. This is less than her option A amount by around $980 per year. Please keep in mind that in this example, it's around a difference of 1.93%. This reduction is variable per retiree because it is dependent on your age and your annuity account balance at the time of retirement. If Mary were to choose option C as her retirement amount, then we would use this option C factor table on the screen here in order to determine what she would receive. On the left-hand side, you'll see the member's closest age at the time of retirement, and on the top, you'll see the beneficiary's closest age at the time of retirement. And you'll find where these two intersect, and it intersects at the 0.8996. What this option C factor is this determines the amount that Mary's benefit would need to be decreased to account for the lifetime benefit that her beneficiary would receive for the remainder of their life. So let's see how that fits into the formula. So Mary, educator, again, she's still retiring June 30th, 2026. If she chose option A, her benefit would be $50,400 per year. So now we take that option C factor of 0.8996 and multiply that by her option A amount. This leaves her with an option C annual benefit of $45,339. However, again, since she's a veteran, now we would add on that additional $300 veterans benefit here. Leaving Mary as a retiree under option C, she will receive $45,639 annually, which works out to $3,803 per month. Now, upon Mary's passing, her survivor that she chooses will receive 2/3 of what she's receiving as a retiree for the remainder of their life. So the survivor allowance that would be paid out would be $30,426 annually, which breaks down to $2,535 per month for Mary. Now, our next example here is going to be Tom Teacher. The big difference between Mary and Tom is that Tom is retiring under the Retirement Plus formula. So Tom is participating in Retirement Plus. He is retiring at age 58. So we use the age factor of 0.018. His creditable service is 34.5 years. Now for Tom, we're going to assume that he has at least those 20 years of membership service. And then obviously with 34 years, he does have at least that 30 years of service overall. So he meets the eligibility requirements for Retirement Plus. His salary average is also going to average out to $75,000. And Tom is not a veteran. Plugging his figures into that option A calculation. We take his age factor of 0.018 and we multiply it by his years of service, 34.5 years. This leaves us with 62.1%. Since he's participating and eligible for the Retirement Plus enhancement, we add on that additional 20%. The 20% is generated because he has 34 full years of service. So that equals 20% of an enhanced benefit increase that he would receive. Even with this increase, he's going to be maxed out at that maximum benefit of 80%. We multiply this 80% by his salary average, which is $75,000. This leaves us with his annual benefit under option A of $60,000. Since he is not a veteran, there's no additional benefit to add on here, and his option A allowance that would be paid out to him would be $60,000 per year, breaking out to $5,000 per month for Tom. If you were to pass away while an active member, the MTRS is responsible for paying out an in-service death benefit to your survivor. This will either be a one-time lump sum distribution of your annuity savings account that will be paid out to your survivor, or a monthly member survivor benefit that would be paid out. Please note that the surviving spouse will have final say in how this benefit will be paid out. If it is going to be paid out on a monthly member survivor benefit, the way that this calculation works is that your survivor will receive what you would have received under option C, and there will be no 2/3 reduction that would be applied to this benefit payment. If you were to pass away prior to age 55, we would increase your age within the formula up to age 55. If there are dependent children that are under your care at the time of your passing, then the MTRS will pay out a dependent child allowance. And this is in addition to the option C payment that would be also paid out. So please keep in mind to always keep your beneficiaries up to date and listed on your account to ensure that you are covered for unfortunate situations like this. And we are going to take a quick break and see if we have any questions.
Yes, we do have a couple of questions, some common questions that multiple people have asked in the chat. I think we can address. One of them is, are the highest 3 years based on school year, fiscal year, or tax year?
So it's based off of your school year. The way that we determine your salary average is we look at what your contract is listing essentially for your salary. So if you're an administrator, it might be based off of a fiscal year. So from July through June, if your contract runs that way. But typically, if you're a teacher, your contract is going to run September to June. So we're going to look at what you would have earned for that time period. I think that answers your question. Yeah.
Thank you. One more. If someone is looking at their creditable service summary and their full year shows as a fraction, so for example, where we expected to see 1, it shows as 0.96. We've had a few comments about that. How does someone address that situation?
So if you have a question as far as to the creditable service that's showing up on your member self-service portal, then you can always send in a Gen Info email or a request for a creditable service estimate if there is a big discrepancy in your years of service. Typically, if you see 0.99 or 0.96, it's likely due to possibly just how the data is being pulled into the report, and if you did work a full year that year, it's likely that you should be credited that full year. But in order to check on that, you can always reach out to us in our contact center or through Gen Info to inquire to make sure that everything is kind of ironed out for your retirement purposes.
Great, thank you.
Good. Okay. All right, let's move on. For health insurance coverage. While the MTRS does not administer the health insurance, we do want to make you aware of a couple of key points regarding your health insurance coverage as you're heading into or preparing for retirement. Your health insurance is all going to be continued to be handled through your school district. So prior to your retirement, we recommend about a year before your retirement, reach out to your health insurance coordinator within your school district. It is possible that your coverage availability may change as a retiree versus what you currently have as an active member. So touch base with them to see what your coverage options are as a retiree. In addition to this, some things that you might want to touch base with them on is if you are the sole holder of your health insurance, just to touch base and ensure that upon your passing, that the insurance will continue for your family. Typically it does, but again, just to double check, that specific health insurance is applicable that way. If you are moving out of state, you would want to check and see that your plan also is in place or you have coverage in that state that you're moving to as well. The MTRS's role at the time of retirement in regards to health insurance is your school district will let us know what to deduct from your paycheck, and we do so. So we don't have any knowledge as far as to what the deductions are for or the amounts or why things are being deducted. So any specific questions like that, you would want to reach out to your school district to get the specific answers individually for you, because every district is a little bit different when it comes to that. And if you are prior to your 65th birthday, we do encourage that you reach out to Social Security to avoid any possible penalties to just determine your eligibility for Medicare and also for Part B. And lastly, you would want to check with them as well in regards to Medigap coverage, which essentially covers what Medicare does not. So just a couple of tips to think about a year prior to your retirement. Working after retirement. It's probably, if you're gearing up for retirement, not something that's really hot on your mind right now, but the reality of it is maybe you'll be bored in retirement, or maybe you'll want to go back to work, or maybe you'll have to. So we're here to make you aware of those different limitations that are applicable to your service after retirement. If you are going back to work after retirement in the private sector or in private or public service in another state or employment with the federal government, there is not going to be any limitations as far as to what you can work or how much you can earn. Now, where you will see those limitations is going to be going back into service in a Massachusetts public sector employment. If you are returning back to service with the same employer that you are retiring from, you do need to be separated from them for at least 60 days prior to returning back to that same employer. So if you were to retire in June and then go back in September, that 60-day window would be met over the summer, so you would be eligible to return back to work with that same employer after that time period. This restriction for the 60-day window will be waived if you're retiring at age 62 or above, or if you're retiring at the maximum benefit of 80%. The restrictions that you will see as reemployment in the Massachusetts public sector after retirement will be a restriction on your hours that you can work and your earnings that you can earn after retirement. Your hours are going to be capped out at 1,200 hours within a calendar year. So from January to December is how we look at your hours worked. And your earnings will also be looked at in a calendar year. If in order to determine your allowable earnings that you can earn after retirement, you would want to contact your school district that you retired from, figure out what you would be earning had you had not retired from them, subtract out what you are receiving under your Mass Teachers pension amount, and this will leave you with your allowable earnings. After you're retired one full calendar year, December to January, January to December, your limit will increase by $15,000 per year. Here is a breakdown formula so that you can visually see that working after retirement earnings restrictions calculation. We're going to go back to Mary Educator, who again retired on June 30th, 2026, and she retired from a position that paid $77,000 per year. Now, Mary would need to go back to her school district that she retired from and find out what she would have been making had she had not retired in June of 2026, and if she continued to work into that 26-27 school year. So she did this, and they got back to her indicating that her former position salary would be $79,000. Please keep in mind that your salary is going to be inclusive of regular longevity, athletic coaching, or any contracted stipend amounts you would want to have included in that salary figure that they're giving you. Then you would subtract out your gross annual pension amount, which is $50,175 in Mary's case, leaving her with her allowable earnings of $28,825 that she can earn for the remainder of the calendar year. Now, after Mary's been retired one full calendar year, so it would be the calendar year of 2027, so effective January 1st, 2028, Mary can earn an additional $15,000 per calendar year on this amount. And lastly, if a school district is having difficulty finding out somebody to fill a position, then they are able to apply to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for a critical shortage waiver. For this critical shortage waiver, this is nothing that the MTRS gets involved in. However, please note that the 60-day of separation is still applicable if you are returning back to work with that same employer that you retired from. So you do still have to wait that 60-day window unless you are age 62 or retiring at the maximum benefit of 80%. Typically, these last anywhere between half a year to a year. It's a short-term waiver period. And in order to be eligible, if you're retiring under Retirement Plus, you do have to wait 2 years to be eligible to be employed under a critical shortage waiver. Now, what this means for your benefit payment means that you can work under this critical shortage waiver position, earning that full amount of salary for that position that you're working under, and you can continue to receive your full MTRS benefit amount for the duration of that critical shortage waiver position. Taxation of your MTRS benefit. So your benefit will no longer be subject to state tax. However, The government will never let you get away, so it will still be subject to federal taxes. This is part of the retirement process. There is a W-4P form that you would fill out along with your retirement application, and on there you would indicate how you want your federal taxes withheld. You can change this at any time throughout retirement if you need to make adjustments. For your after-tax funds, if you have any on account with the MTRS, either if you had service prior to 1988 or if you paid for any buybacks with after-tax funds, this is all kept separately within your annuity savings account to ensure that you won't pay taxes on it twice. When you are a retiree, you will receive a 1099-R, which is essentially the retiree version of a W-2 for you. Within that 1099-R, you will see the after-tax funds that is separated out in a specific box on the 1099-R. If you are planning to move out of state, please check with that state to see if your Massachusetts pension would be taxed within that specific state. And lastly, if you live out of state from Massachusetts, you will receive a benefit verification form that will be sent to you every other year along with this 1099-R, which is essentially just alive and well to make sure that you are still with us and still the one receiving your benefit to avoid any possible pension fraud. Social Security. For Social Security, this used to be a touchy subject, but not so much anymore. There was a repeal that was signed into action that eliminated the windfall elimination provision in the government pension offset. This was signed into law on January 5th, 2025. And historically, we would see that the benefits of our members would be reduced or even eliminated for Social Security and for teachers and other public employees. However, that is no longer the case due to the repeal that was signed into law. For any specific questions regarding Social Security, your eligibility for Social Security, we recommend that you reach out to Social Security at ssa.gov. Subscribe to receive any possible updates or changes through their website. And lastly, ending on another high note is a cost of living adjustment. You'd be eligible to receive a cost of living adjustment after you're retired for one full fiscal year. This does need to be approved by legislature each year. However, if it is approved, you will receive 3% or the consumer price index on your first $13,000 of your retirement allowance. It's a maximum increase of $390 per year. It's not much, but it doesn't really keep up with inflation, but it is still something and still an increase to your benefit. This will automatically be done behind the scenes if it is approved. There is nothing additional that you would need to do when it comes to that. That is all the information that we have for you today, but maybe we have some more questions before moving on, or what do we have, Scott?
Yeah, the chat team in the other room, huge shout out to them. They've been doing an amazing job keeping up with the questions that have been coming in. But just one clarifying question I want to ask about working after retirement. If you're returning to public school teaching after retirement, if it's in a different school district in the same state, are there the same restrictions on allowable earnings?
Yes, there are. So even if it's in a different school district, the only difference is that you don't have that 60-day of separation if you're returning to another school district. The 60-day of separation is applicable to if you're returning back to the same school district. However, the allowable earnings and the cap on the hours that you can work is applicable across all Massachusetts public service. So even if it's another school district, even if you're going to the town to work for the Parks and Rec department and you're being paid through that city or town, that's still public service. So that service would still be subject to the limitations. Similarly, even if you have contracted service, so if you're not specifically being paid by that city or town for the service that you're rendering, or by that school district for that service that you're rendering, if you are rendering service within a public school, that is still going to be service that would be subject to the earnings and hours limitations.
Excellent. I got one more question. I think this is a good general question that people may have. How far in advance of our actual retirement date do we hand in our application?
That is a great question, and you're probably not alone in that question either. So our general processing time or our general recommendation is that you hand in your retirement application 3 to 4 months before your date of retirement in order to be considered an on-time retiree filer. Now, if you're currently in a panic because you're retiring June 30th and you haven't sent it in yet, please don't panic. All that this means is that you may see a delay in your first pension check. You're not going to lose out on any money that you would be entitled to receive. So if you're retiring on June 30th and you haven't submitted it yet, you can submit it now. And then our general processing time is 4 months from when we get your application in-house is when you'll get your notice of estimated retirement benefits. So if you are submitting your application in January for a June 30th retirement, you'll receive your notice of estimated retirement benefits and get paid at the end of August. If this is your situation, you are not going to lose out on the earnings or on the retirement benefit that you're entitled to receive retroactive to June 30th. You will receive that retroactive check at the end of August for all of July and August.
I've got one more question. How does this all work if I move out of the country?
If you move out of the country, I mean, for as far as retirement goes, your retirement is going to be a direct deposit. So it's mandated to be a direct deposit. So as long as your funds are being deposited into a US bank and then not being forwarded to a bank in another country, there should not be any issues that you would foresee. You are able to move out of the country. Just make sure that your address is up to date with us. And so that any correspondence being mailed out regarding your pension can be sent to you to make you aware of anything, but similarly, just updating your address with us in your retiring school district and making sure that the direct deposit information is going to a US bank, then it should not work any differently. But if you have any specific questions, you can always reach out to us via GenInfo or through our call center.
Right, got one more question, just general timelines. I filed my application in January and I have not received confirmation of its acceptance.
Okay, so I would recommend if you haven't heard anything from us by this point, definitely send us a follow-up email or give us a call, because you should by now have received at least a letter letting you know that your application has been received. Our general processing time is once we get your application in-house, we make a photocopy of any original documents, mail them back out to you. And then shortly after, an admin will review your application, make sure everything's there and complete, and then we would send out an acknowledgement correspondence letter to you. All this typically happens within a month or two after receiving your application during the busier season. So if you haven't heard anything from us, I would definitely reach out to us to touch base, as that would be a little bit concerning to make sure that we have received it. Sure.
Seem to get this one a lot about timing. Can I delay my retirement until October, my birthday, even if I finish work in June?
Yes, you definitely can. And the benefit of delaying your retirement to go to your birthday would only benefit you if you are going to receive an increase in age factor. So the age factor only increases up to age 65 for a tier 1 member. So if you are under the age of 65 and your birthday is in October, it may benefit you to wait, and you would have that higher age factor that would be used in the calculation of your benefit. However, there would be no continual increase to your years of service if you're not returning back to work after June 30th. So just to keep that in mind, and to speak with a financial advisor, it may not financially be beneficial to receive that higher age factor by waiting all the way till October versus starting to receive your benefit in June. So a financial advisor might be able to advise you if that would make sense for you particularly. Generally, we see members who are retiring with birthdays over the summer. That is generally something that we would encourage members to do, because it's a shorter time period that you would be foregoing your benefit. So if you stop working in June and you retire in October, your benefit would be effective your birthday in October, and no additional service credit would accrue from June through October. The only increase that you will see is that we would use that higher age factor of your age as of your date of birth in October. And similarly with any other birthday throughout the year as well. I think that answers it.
Another good question. I'm glad somebody asked this because multiple people probably have this question. Can applications be dropped off in person?
Yes, your application can be dropped off in person. You can mail it into us via certified mail, regular mail, however you see fit, but we also do have walk-in appointments available in both offices, Charlestown and Springfield. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:30. You can bring in your application, drop it off. A counselor will make photocopies of any original documents and review it briefly for completeness. And then we would take it in-house, and then it would kind of proceed at the regular process as if you had mailed it in. So yes, you can absolutely come in. You don't need to make an appointment ahead of time. Just simply walk in and somebody will be able to meet with you.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, it looks like the chat team in the other room is doing an exceptional job of keeping up with all the questions. So I don't have any further questions at this point.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you all for taking your time out of your vacation to educate yourself about your retirement, and hopefully this was educational for you. Continue asking questions if you have them, and enjoy the rest of your break.